Hey there. So today I've been reviewing the Michelle Perez controversy, and going through some of my coverage, I left some gaps in it. Now, I would be remiss in asking you to take my word on something because as a creator, I pride myself on giving you facts either within a video before and asking you to review that, or providing you that within the video itself. That's something that you should have there. You should never be asked to take sides. Everything should be objective. Now, sometimes I'm not saying that I can be objective. This situation, it really makes me angry. It makes me angry for specific reasons too, which I'll note, but still, within that, you should not take sides, pro or con, simply because an individual sees something a specific way. You, as all of us, are individuals. This Comicsgate thing, that's not us. We are individuals that are brought together because we have a collective issue. The issue is the behavior of other people. That's what we're addressing here, the behavior of a person. Now, the website that I'm picking this up from, Bounding Into Comics, when you go and check this out, and I would recommend that you do, as Mundane Matt would say, turn off that pesky ad block. Go to their site, turn it off, let them have a little bit of that fraction of a penny that an ad will bring in. Give them a little love because they've been covering things fairly. It's very hard to get fair coverage, so we should appreciate that. They did a good job with the Ethan Van Sciver harassment. They're doing a good job with this. That's why I'm using them. So looking at this, comic book writer wishes horrible death on Afghanistan veteran. Now that right there, as a comic book company, should make you question the optics of what is going on. You know, what's interesting is we have people out there defending this too. But as a company, you should look at this. You should see how parts of the consumer and an audience at large, people outside of Twitter and what have you, might actually take this. They might actually pull business because of this. You might have a spike for this person for one book because hey, there are people that actually will engage and say, that's all right, this kind of behavior is all right. But by and large, people are going to pull away. People that are consumers because of this. The people you're listening to right now, for myself, for example, I am a consumer and I'm already going through the pulling away, which I'll talk about at the end of this. But anyhow, continuing. Image comic writer Michelle Perez took things to another level this weekend when she wished an absolutely horrific death on Afghanistan war veteran and comics critic, Diversity in Comics, also known as Richard C. Myers. Perez wrote the upcoming graphic novel The Pervert with artist Remy Boydell. Remy Boydell has been involved in this conversation too. Knows fully well what is going on and has already taken a side. I know that would be a difficult situation to be in. Perez said, hey, I'm sorry that I got you into this. Like, don't worry, I know you're just trying to get all these people worked up. Well, the way you're working them up is absolutely terrible. And somebody that is a coworker of yours, they should not be fueling this. They should actually tell you to stop. If they don't, they're complicit in this. They know what's going on. They have to know that this is not a good look. But hey, narrative and all that. So anyhow, continuing. The book is being published through Image Comics. As you can see below, Perez's quotes herself, "It sucks that an IED didn't blow him up." So you can see this quote here. That's my official position on that guy, by the way. It sucks that an IED didn't blow him up. You can quote me. It's cool. So Perez threw this up there, knowing that people would see it. So they want you to quote him on that. They're saying that this individual, when they went out, I wish they would have been killed by a bomb. Now, within that statement, there are a lot of troubling factors. If we go outside the diversity in comics factor, outside of you wishing death on him, outside the fact that the man has been to war and perhaps he's seen friends die that way, you also have veterans in the crowd. Veterans in the crowd that may have been impacted by this. Families of veterans in the crowd that may have been impacted by this. I myself, we've lost a friend because of this. I myself have veterans veterans within the crowd too, of my family, my father, his father, and so on. We have so many. My grandfather on my mother's side, one of my brothers, and again, so on. There are so many people there, and you're talking about something that we fear time and again, every day, about getting a call. You know, I've seen somebody come home in a bag after that. I mean, I cannot even begin to fathom how somebody could make a comment that is so callous and ugly. But again, that's what comes because you find a problem within comic books. Apparently, commenting on a comic book brings this type of behavior out on individuals. So anyhow, continuing. This tweet is in reference to a previous one where she specifically calls out Richard C. Myers and says, unfortunately, an IED didn't blow him up. Richard C. Meyer, aka Diversity in Comics Guy, he did a 30-minute video about a comic book circular that featured an article of mine. He's a multiple divorcee piece of shit. He's a war veteran, so of course he's a crypto-fascist. Unfortunately, an IED didn't blow him up. Now, there's two statements within that are troubling. Obviously, we have already covered the IED portion, but there's the other portion. He's a war veteran, so of course he's a crypto-fascist. This person is calling him a Nazi. Not only are they doing that, read that line again. He is a war veteran, therefore. That is what that says. So you're a war veteran, therefore you're a crypto-fascist. That equals vet, that equals fascist. You can see that. That is an all statement. Now, this person is trying to pull away from that statement in recent discussion. Person is saying, of course, I didn't mean that for everybody. Of course, that wasn't aimed that way. But the way this person identifies, of course, that was meant for everybody. And again, it's said right there. It's stated clearly. So continuing with this. Perez then made a number of tweets about Meyer. Imagine being as dumb as Meyer and actually advertising me for free. Okay, that's lovely. Imagine being as dumb as these tweets suggest and coming out and saying somebody should die and that part of your customer base or potential customer base or the company you work for's customer base are all Nazis because they went to war. Continuing, I'd like to start a GoFundMe to give Richard C. Myers a chin. You can see that bleeped out. Diversity in Comics responded to Michelle Perez wishing he had died in a YouTube video. He was actually pretty calm about that, to be honest. But Richard Myers wasn't her only target. She also went after a number of conservative icons, including Ronald Reagan, Nancy Reagan, Antonia Scalia, and Billy Graham. People I'm glad are dead. Ronald Reagan, Nancy Reagan, Scalia, and especially Billy Graham. If you're defending Richard C. Myers, go off. Go to bat for dirtbag who only whips up hate mobs against LGBT and any non-white in comic books, you pasty white gerbil. So she's talking about Kurt Eichenwald, what he had to say to this kind of stuff. So this person is enjoying the death of people because of their politics and also talking about this guy. All he does is go after these type of individuals. Now, never mind that Mark Wade, he ended up being somebody that people have a problem with. Never mind Dan Slott. It's always targeted a specific way because that's how these people deal with criticism. They like to bring up the marginalized casting card. Therefore, their bad actions, they have no repercussion. Because if you frame certain things a certain way, they do not suffer the response to it. You know, they can always call that harassment. That's how it's gone for months now. Comic consumers have been attacked and disparaged, and we've been blocklisted and all kinds of things. We've been blacklisted by portions of the comic creating community. We've been treated like we're monsters. We've been called Nazis and alt-right. So, of course, some of us are very pissed off in that. But then we get things like this as well. We're told that, cis people, we deserve to be hit in the teeth with baseball bats, that if you're certain politics, either you're a terrible human being or beyond that somebody might want a murder button so they could push it so all GOP members could die, and so on. She would then add Margaret Thatcher to the list. I'm glad that Margaret Thatcher is dead, so there's another one as well. Now, her threats provoked a response in Kurt Eichenwald, a contributing editor for Vanity Fair. He also works for MSNBC and works for a number of other things as well. He is a flaming liberal, too, when you get down to it. This man, I mean, some of his stances are totally insane in my book. I say that as somebody that would have considered myself, I know the going term for it is classic liberal. I mean, when you look at that, a lot of things that I think you have, certain freedoms, this guy would take away. I wouldn't normally agree with him, but even he can see the terrible certainties within this. The fact that this is not acceptable. The most horrible person on Twitter today is @RebelWoman. That is Michelle Perez, a comic book writer with Image Comics, who wished an Afghan vet was killed by an IED and celebrated the deaths of a number of GOP and religious figures. I don't care if you don't like people's politics. This is obscene. The two would then engage in a heated debate where Perez defended why she attacked the conservative icons and why it's great they're dead. Oh, we're doing this? All right, buddy, so since you're here, it's great that Ronald Reagan is dead. He ravaged black communities. He supported apartheid, and he sure loved escalating the war on drugs into the depraved garbage of today. Billy Graham said AIDS was the judgment of God. So therefore, these people deserve to die and should dance on their graves. Scalia, it's fantastic he is dead. I wish he came back to life just so he could fidget around and die again. What a terrible, terrible statement there. The only way tonight could get better is if Scalia came back to life and then died in front of me. That's what kind of garbage human being we're talking about. Kurt, he's talking again, so I condemned a comic book writer at Image Comics for wishing an Afghan vet had died and celebrating conservatives' deaths. Then I got bombarded with outrage from comic book industry insiders. When did comic books become evil political? And when did lunatics take over? I missed this event. Michelle Perez, commenting here. When did comics become evil political? Some Vanity Fair level quality right there. When they became political evil was the fact when there was no consequence for garbage like this. When these people found out that they could escalate and escalate because they identify a certain way, and in that they could basically get away with anything. Then they found out there was no consequence whatsoever. So they just do whatever they want. And you see that on display here of doing whatever they want. So Kurt, he responds here, seriously, I have never seen a crazier group emerge than when I called out a comic writer blue check for wishing a veteran had died in Afghanistan. They say criticizing death wishers is harassment. The vet is called diversity in comics. Can someone explain what this lunacy is about? Now, for my response with that, do your own research. You don't listen to them, especially. Don't listen to your fellow mainstream medias. Don't listen to us. You need to go out and research what's there. For yourself, I know that people like yourself love buzzwords. I hope you could be the better person and see the problem there. You obviously saw a problem before. I'm hoping that this doesn't turn around and you end up apologizing because someone wanted someone else to die. Someone danced on the graves of people they didn't like politically. That's the type of person here. Tomorrow, it won't be any better if you have background. That is literally what a professional is doing to a critic, if you want to call them that, but at the best, I'm going to say a comic consumer with a voice now that was given a pulpit by the same actions these people are providing. So continuing, Michelle Perez is using the publicity from Eichenwald to sell her book. It's more than likely her attack against Richard C. Meyer was meant to provoke this intense reaction from both sides in a culture war, especially with heightened tension between both the left and the right over the Second Amendment and gun control in the wake of the Parkland school shooting. This divisiveness allows her to claim being the victim for her side and promote herself as such. This victim status lets her more easily manipulate her side's emotions and get them to support her by purchasing her novel. It's a shame of tactic, but it appears to be working. The book is currently the number 9 book from Image Comics and the 13th book in educational and nonfiction. It is also the number 1 book in Amazon's gay and lesbian category. Overall, the book sets at 5,924. Now I can say, and I've said this before, so I'm repeating some ground here, but say this person gets 300 sales. I'm going to up what I said before. Now for myself, I know that with my buying habits, I can at minimum count for 12 Image titles per month. That is probably very well lowballing, but let's go with that. Out of that, I am accounting for roughly half of what we're talking about in sales there. So if you think about that there, I'm talking about trade paperbacks and stuff too. I mean, let's be real there. You know, if you're going out, for example, for myself, I like Black Monday Murder. I buy the physical, I'm going to get me a digital, and I'm going to get the trade paperback when it rolls around. Now, for myself, you're losing all of that. So I'm going to say 12 per month. That's 149 for a year for me, and that is a low ball number. And I'm out the door with it. As I said, I'm going to talk about that at the end, though. Continuing, despite the successful marketing tactic, her actions are quite disgusting. The calling for the death of someone because you disagree with his politics is just nasty. Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be an end in sight in the ideological war raging for the heart of America. I expect there will be more and more instances like this. I mean, that is a disgusting thought there, that basically you're going to use tactics like this. And if there is, the way to end this is simple. There needs to be a consequence for it. This person, despite the fact that they're selling books there, if they want to be controversial, hey, but Image needs to say something about that. Again, I'm getting off topic because I get heated here. We've already seen people on the left get Will Callaghan fired for his conservative beliefs. They've also targeted Mike Rowe and Kevin Sorbo. Michelle Perez appears to be going after Eichenwald and his job at Variety because he called her out for a disgusting attack against an Afghanistan war veteran. I wouldn't be surprised to see it escalate into physical violence in the near future. Now, along with all that, we saw Big Aubrey Sitterson, Big Chuck Sitterson, and his takes come out. Now, if you don't know Aubrey Sitterson, giving you a really brief overview, you can look into videos I've done and many other people have done, but I've already covered this stuff. Aubrey, he decided to make comments about 9/11, very disparaging ones, and then double down, and continue to go on, to the point that IDW had to tell him to calm down because it was ruining sales. You had the largest fan site, YoJo, actually say they would not buy anything else because of this guy until he was taken off. That's how bad it was. But of course, that wasn't some internal issue. Nope. Externally, it was people harassing poor old Aubrey Sitterson. That's one of his takes there. So he's talking about this. My only real regret with all the Comicsgate stuff over the past few months was that I obeyed IDW when they told me to stay quiet and let it blow over. You know, that's a company trying to deal with something. Now, a company should have come out and really apologized, fell on the sword, and gotten this over with, removed him, and gone on with it, but they didn't know how to take that. They didn't realize what this would turn into. That's the reason that they're looking at things like $800,000 in lost revenue for a year versus $3.7 million for the year before, because companies are not thinking in these terms, and they need to wake up. Continuing, I should have come out swinging as loudly as possible at Rubble Woman as an inspiration in this regard. Oh yeah, that's a great take there. You know, professionals, if you want to be employed, you really need to listen to someone like that. You know, a guy who basically got himself canned because he couldn't shut his trap and really keep bad thoughts to himself. Perez said, yeah, man, you didn't do anything wrong. Of course, that old Aubrey didn't do anything wrong because he's agreeing with you, because you're ideological buddies. It's not terrible to tell 9/11 victims or people that are looking at this from the outside that are not from New York. It's not terrible to say you guys are posers. No, not at all. Fake memorial. Nope, that's not terrible. But then again, terrorist attack, veterans being crypto-fascist, I see a parallel there. Also, these two people share a similar belief about communism, so take that how you will. But continuing, but people gotta get ready for these dumbasses. You know, dumbasses, you know what that's code for? These people are talking about comic consumers. That is literally what they're saying about comic consumers. All dumbasses there. I'm not taking their shit lying down anymore. Well, you know, hopefully we can apply enough pressure. Your book, it may sell right now. That's great for you. But in the end, you know, if people want to hire you, they need to look at you like some kind of a terminal cancer when they see you coming, because you're going to hurt their company. Continuing, this is something later on that someone actually found for me. I appreciate them bringing this up. This is Michelle Perez saying that they understand that some things shouldn't be said out there. They do understand that there is a level within companies where you have to draw the line. They like to say later on now that, hey, there ain't no line out there for me. But, you know, at one time they understood that. I appreciate when people say this or that about courage, but bear this in mind. There's also shit I can't talk about. There's shit I can't say because, hey, doing so could ruin my fucking life or career. Well, welcome to that shit. You have found that line. Nobody is immune to the facts that sometimes you don't hold all the cards. Well, you don't hold all the cards here because this is also customer driven. And I want to make the point with this. So today, I bought this. I've been looking at it for a while and I've been thinking, where am I going to come up with the money from? So I decided for the next month that I will not buy any Image comics at all. I'm putting them back on the shelves. I figure that this amount of money covers it for sure, and if not, I will put more money towards something. But this is what I've done for the month. I will continue to do this every month until Image decides to do something about this situation. Silence is complicity. You are not going to get away with not doing anything. I understand people making the argument that, hey, you're hurting a lot of creators with doing this stuff. Well, this is a bridge too far. Any other company, we would take them to bat for this. They would have to do something about it. Be it a restaurant, if a waiter came up and insulted you, you wouldn't go back. You would expect an apology too. Someone at a grocery store or any other type of store, you would demand the same thing. Gas stations and on. If I did this to someone that was a customer of ours, my company would definitely expect some kind of blowback, and it would reflect on every professional there. People would not expect you to go in and continue supporting the other people that fall under that label. But somehow comic books, we want to see them differently. That's because they provide a unique product, and a lot of us, we enjoy them very much. In fact, we are tied to them. That's the kicker with all of this. We're addicted to that product to the point that we are allowing ourselves to deal with this kind of crap. Where are we going to draw the line? This is my line. This is what happens. This is how it's going to continue. If other people want to stand on that line, you make it known too. You showcase what you are buying instead of those comics, and you also put out the line of what you would buy. I'm going to start putting out lists of the comic books I would have bought until this ends, or until we just find out they don't care, and then screw them. You know, I've already made my point. I will make my point for months, for a little while, but if Image Comics, if we don't matter to them, then they don't matter to me. All right, thanks. I appreciate you listening. This stuff, it really irritates me.